All right, hello everybody. It is me, Canner Yu-Gi-Oh. Welcome back to another video here. And we are here with the tier list for post Heavy Metal Scream. Or also, if you just want to call this the November tier list. Going into December, going into the Goha Rush Festival, this is what I believe to be the best decks. Now, keep in mind, the format is still pretty new and pretty fresh. We don't know what is the best decks, what aren't the best decks, kind of any of that stuff. We aren't super sure, but I have a good idea. So, we're going to start off with what I believe to be... We're going to go work our way down. But we're going to start out here with Tier 1. Tier 1 kind of represents the best decks in the metagame, the decks that you have to prepare for the most, and the decks that are going to be competing at the highest level. Starting off, we have Dragons. I think this changes not much at all from the previous list, and the previous format, but it kind of became apparent to me upon playing more and more of the format using dragons. If you had seen on the channel, I had used dragons a lot. I had tried other decks as well, but none of them had seemed as powerful as dragon. This to me is the best deck. Nothing really changes in terms of competing with dragons at a super high level with this box. Dragios is still the best individual card, and with the release of powerful, competent back row, we now have justification that Dragonic Slayer is one of the top cards in the game, one of the top tributes in the game, and it pairs very well with the Dragonic Resonance skill. Now, the second best deck... I don't think belongs in Tier 1. So we're going to start ahead with Tier 2. Starting us off in Tier 2, we have Spellcasters. I think Spellcaster is an incredible deck that kind of just does the same stuff it does now. They got no new support, so now they're just playing the back row. And I think while this deck has explosive hands, I think this deck is significantly weaker than Dragons is. And when Dragons is just kind of in this explosive spot, Spellcasters is going to just be catching some strays with people playing... Oh, what's it called? Phantom Bind, sorry. But with people playing Phantom Bind, it makes these pure type decks a little bit worse, but not completely unplayable. Next up in Tier 2, I have Arise Dragons. Arise Dragons is very similar to Dragoncaster, but it's going more in on certain dragon cards to be able to play with that. I think both of these decks are pretty even. Dragoncaster... Oh, wait, no. This is Dragoncaster. Sorry. Dragoncaster is Tier 2 with Arise Dragons. And then, finally, we have, in Tier 3, we have Spellcaster. I think Spellcaster, well, in Tier 2, I think Spellcaster is pretty even with these decks. I think in a world where Dragon gets hit, Dragoncaster begins to fall off, Arise Dragons becomes weaker, and I think Spellcaster is positioned really interestingly as the best deck in the format. Next up, we're going into Tier 3, and starting us off in Tier 3, I've got Bubble Era. I think Bubble Era is still an extremely competent deck. I think if there was a Tier 2.5, I would put it there. But in terms of Tier 3, I think this deck is about as good as it gets. The issue, and one of my best friends who also plays Rush with me, and I talk to a lot about the format, he plays Bubble Era independently. While this thing is like the second best deck in terms of actual results, I don't think it's there in terms of the strength needed to keep carrying itself at that caliber. I think Bubble Era really does just have some issues with consistency. You are playing a lot of big tributes, which make it kind of difficult to do a lot with this deck if you're not finding the big, powerful tribute cards that don't even belong to Bubble Era itself. Next up in tier 3, we have Psychics. I think Psychic is incredibly powerful, and I think it is incredibly well positioned now due to their new skill. Their new skill allowing them to draw into Romanpick, Esperade from outside of the deck, and Prima Guitarna. Romanpick and Prima Guitarna, I believe, are from the deck. I believe both of those are from the deck. I know Prima Guitarna is for sure. But this new skill allows the deck some more legs. It allows them to draw into very powerful tribute monsters. Esperade is quite good for the strategy, being able to boost up your monsters as well to be able to push for more points of damage. I think that was kind of the issue with Spellcaster, is all of their effects paying their life points to activate them. They weren't really able to compete at like such a high level. Next up in tier 3, I have, that's right, Warrior. I think Warrior is an extremely competent, aggressive deck. I just don't know necessarily how much legs it has in this format. I think in a world without a bunch of battle traps, this looks better. They did get their own exclusive battle trap though, but I'm not sure how much it will help them. I'm not sure if Warrior is going to be a top deck going into the Gohar Rush Festival. This is a deck, though, for sure I'm going to have my eyes on, and a deck that I'm very likely going to be testing for the Gohar Rush Festival. This is, to me, this and Psychic are the biggest. They could be anywhere in tier 2 or 3. I think I might actually put Bubble Era a little lower, but for right now, I think Bubble Era pretty comfortably at tier 3, just because we know it's a tier 3 deck. We know it's kind of in that area. Next up in Rogue, I've got this deck, and that is Royal Rebel or the Fiend deck. Now, it's not necessarily Fiends, though, because the best version of Royal Rebel, which did just recently win an event, is the Red Eyes version, playing the Red Eyes skill as a way to get into more stuff. Now, I don't necessarily believe that that is the de facto best version of this deck. It is, for now, seeming to be the best version. But unfortunately, I don't think it has the legs to compete in this format. While Royal Rebel, Heavy Metal, Scream, whatever, is a very powerful card, I don't think it is an impactful enough card to be making a big enough splash that the metagame is going to be completely upended. I don't think it is even really competitive to a large extent with a lot of the top decks. I think they are all just able to accomplish an aggressive game plan better than what Royal Rebel would like to do. A lot of them have better skills that they have access to. This deck just doesn't really have all that yet, and I would be very interested to see how this deck is going to develop as the format does. But for right now, I can't feel confident putting it anywhere above Rogue. Next up, we have Lightning Volt Condor, also in Rogue. I think this deck is basically positioned the exact same it was last format. Psychic is better, so theoretically you're going to be hitting more decks that end on a light. But I don't think the deck necessarily has legs. The deck is just worse than every other deck above it, to the point where I considered for a while putting it here in bad. But I think I'm going to put it in Rogue for right now, because I think the deck that is in bad is just significantly worse than everything else that is available. And that's Beatdown. I don't think Beatdown is a competent deck. I've never thought Beatdown is a competent deck. It's very gimmicky. It has potential to do it, but I don't think it's going to really be able to close out games in an effective way like it really wants to. Now, let's talk about other decks that I didn't include here. Blue Tengu. I don't think Blue Tengu is good. I think it is bad. I think it is the worst deck if we slotted it in on this list. Noodle Ninja. Noodle Ninja, I've not seen anyone playing. I don't really believe it to be a real deck. I think it's kind of just a gimmicky thing right now. I put it in bad, maybe better than the Beatdown deck, but they're kind of very similar. Those are the only 2 decks that I didn't really include here because I didn't think it would be necessary. But make sure to let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking about this format. This is very much just a guess for me, but I feel pretty good about this list. The only thing, like I said, Warrior and Psychic might be placed lower. I think Arise Dragon might be placed a little high. You know what? We're going to put Arise Dragon here. We're going to put Spellcaster as the 3rd best deck. No, I think Arise Dragon's better just because they're playing dragons. But yeah, I feel pretty good with this being my list for right now. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys on Wednesday, because I believe on Wednesday we have our Goha Rush Festival right away in the morning. So there should be Goha Rush Festival content. If not, I'll also be recording a video about ban list predictions on what I think should happen. But yeah, this is it for the list. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.